What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto neglected by family would release Chunin exams? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Apathy. This is what a now 5-year-old Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze felt towards his mother and father. 5 years he has lived with them, ignoring him in favor of his twin sister Natsumi. At first it was a great resentment, which in turn leads to hatred. Now, he can't feel anything at all for them. He just doesn't care enough about them to even formulate an opinion on the matter. Of course, such a way of looking at things can only last so long before someone snaps. 5 years ago, on the date of the Uzumaki Namikaze twins' birth, the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked their home, Konohagakure. Many hundreds of men and women died from the great beast's rampage, but it was eventually defeated thanks to Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage. He was able to reseal the beast into Natsumi at the cost of his own life, since even though Naruto was born first, both previous holders of the beast were female. Since then, Naruto has been all but entirely forgotten by both the villagers and his parents. He eventually grew apathetic to them as well, not seeing why he should dwell on the way such trivial insects treated him. His sister was a different matter entirely. He truly does care about her, and knows that it isn't her fault for the blatant favoritism. She is the most innocent person he knows, and doesn't let the attention from both the villagers and parents inflate her ego. He was very protective of her, and sometimes taught her some of the things he had learned on his own. Being a genius, the things he taught her were very simple for him. You see, even though Naruto does not contain the Kyuubi, his chakra reserves are tremendously high for his age, even for an Uzumaki. He is currently at high Chunin reserves. There is also the fact that his intelligence is already on par with his father's. He has studied every day since he was 2 years old in their family's library, learning many different things. He has learned the leaf balancing, tree walking, water walking, kunai balancing, and running up a waterfall techniques for chakra control to the degree he can do all of them at once. His control is greater than that of Tsunade Senju. Next are his sealing abilities. He has already completed his soul seal, and mastered his father's famous Hireishin no Jutsu on both levels. All of the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu have been learned, and even improved by him. Needless to say, he is a prodigy like no other. The seals he created himself were almost all easily S rank and some were sulfur monosulfide rank. His ability to use genjutsu was, quite frankly, disturbingly high. Some of his genjutsu actually cause real damage to the victim's body. His most effective genjutsu is an improvement of the Mangekyo Sharingan's Tsukuyomi, which feels like 5 days to the victim, but is only 2 seconds in the real world. It could only be broken if they had more chakra than the user of the jutsu. As a side note, his Hange was also a real transformation. He had no idea why, even being a genius, but he wasn't complaining. But what really took the cake was that he also had 3 Kekkei Genkei. First up was the most expected bloodline, which is the legendary Uzumaki stamina, chakra levels, chakra manipulation, and advanced healing. Natsumi also had this bloodline, so it was completely expected. Next was the ability to not only a photographic memory, but also understanding everything that he read to amazing degree. If he focused chakra into his eyes, they would zoom in by about 10x the normal eyesight that can predict the person's movements, as well as having night vision and the ability to see the amount of chakra someone has and the tenketsu points. It was almost like a modified version of the fully matured Sharingan and Byakugan combined. The last was definitely the most shocking. He had the elemental chakra mixing bloodline, along with all of the elemental affinities. This bloodline limit has not been able to be used since the first Hokage, so that meant one of his parents was related to the Senju clan. So far, he has only mastered wood release and a few jutsu with it. He has kept the last 2 bloodlines a secret from both of his parents, seeing as he had no real reason to tell them anything about himself anyway. No one was aware of the last, but Narumi did know about the second. He had told her because he didn't trust anyone else yet. Currently, Naruto was walking through Konoha's streets, the full moon shining down and illuminating the village. It was thanks to this light that he was able to see a shadowed figure running across the rooftops with a small sack across his shoulder. Naruto focused chakra into his eyes and was able to see a Kumo headband. He narrowed his now glowing blue eyes and gave chase to the mysterious figure. He finally caught up to the now identified Kumo shinobi and landed in front of him. The tall man sneered at the sight of a small boy blocking his path. "Hey brat, you had better move out of my way unless you want to die. I am an elite Chunin, and you don't even have a headband. I'm feeling gracious today, so if you leave now, I will let you live," said the man arrogantly. Said Naruto, who was just staring at the man with an emotionless gaze. For some reason, the Kumo shinobi felt unnerved by the boy's gaze. "Hey brat, either run away or say something. I mean it kid, I will kill you. Why should I speak with an unconscious man?" said Naruto with an unnerving calmness. "What do you mean ah?" Naruto had already appeared in front of the man with a katana, and bashing his head with the blunt end, knocking him out. He ran over to the sack and cut it open to reveal a terrified Hinata Hyuga. As soon as he cut her bindings open, she leapt up and started crying in his arms. He reassured her that everything was all right when several Anbu appeared along with her mother and father. Hinata ran over to her mother as soon as she saw her. The Anbu commander spoke up, breaking up the tearful reunion. "Naruto-san, would you please inform us of what happened here? Why is a Kumo nin here of all places?" And so he told them of what happened. To say that the Anbu and Hyuga were stunned was an understatement. A 5-year-old had just single-handedly taken out a Chunin, albeit a weak one, with one hit. That had gotten the Hyuga patriarch to thinking. He had always wanted his daughters to marry someone stronger than himself, and this boy definitely had the potential to become that strong in just a few years. He wondered if he could set up an arranged marriage with his parents for a brief moment, until he remembered that his wife would kill him for not letting Hinata make her own choices. Naruto had just finished explaining the incident when Hitomi, Hinata's mother, bowed and thanked him profusely. Not knowing what to say in this situation, he started telling her that it was okay, and that he just did the right thing. Hiyashi spoke up after a few moments, having an idea of how to thank the boy. "We must thank you somehow, so I propose that we make you an ally to the Hyuga clan. Any time that you may need assistance in any training or political matters, we will side with you." The Anbu, Naruto, and even Hitomi were shocked. Something like this had not happened since the Third Great Ninja War when the Hyuga became allies with the Sarutobi clan. For a 5-year-old to receive this was a true honor. "Thank you Hyuga-sama, I am honored that I would even be considered for such a thing. It's no problem at all and just call me Hiyashi-san. If things go smoothly, you may even call me Tu-san one day." That got a major blush out of both Naruto and Hinata. Hitomi was once again shocked at her normally stoic husband's actions. For the past 5 years, he had been nearly expressionless in public. She just chalked it up to the stress of the day catching up to him. "Tu-san, what are you saying?" squeaked out the tomato-red Hinata. "Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding, no need to get worked up about it. I was serious though, Naruto-san. You are hereby a close ally of the Hyuga clan. Now let's get you home. Your parents are probably worried sick about you." Naruto had a slightly angry look on his face for a moment and said, "Don't worry about it. They probably didn't even notice. I wasn't there for lunch or dinner either, so them not sending anyone out means they did forget me." The Hyuga and Anbu looked at him incredulously for a moment, not wanting to believe that their beloved Yondaime Hokage would forget his own son. But it was proven by the fact that none of the Anbu were sent out that night to search. Hitomi looked disgusted by her friend Kushina's actions. Hiyashi looked downright furious, his sense of fatherly protection renewed with vigor due to the night's events. Even the Anbu, especially the white-haired one with a dog mask, looked like they were questioning why he wouldn't care for his son properly. Suddenly, a yellow flash appeared in front of them, halting their thoughts on the matter. "Alright, I want to know what's going on here. Why is the Kumo delegate on the ground? He was just with me a few hours ago during the peace treaty renewal," said the now revealed Minato. The Anbu explained what happened to him, but he just pretty much ignored everything about his son said until they told him he was now the ally of the Hyuga clan. As clan head, even if there were only 4 members, he thought of how this could benefit them in many ways. Being an ally of the clan also meant Naruto could marry someone from the clan as well. He could potentially join the 2 clans to create an even more powerful and dangerous one. After thinking a few moments, he told the Anbu to scout the area to see if there were any more unfamiliar chakra signatures, while he discussed things with Hiyashi and his wife. Well, seeing as how we are now allies with your clan, I would like to propose an arranged marriage to my son and your eldest daughter. Hiyashi looked at Minato like he had grown a second head, and said, who said that your clan was allied with us? Only Naruto has this alliance with us. He is the one who saved my daughter, and he is the one who will receive the reward. My family has had an extremely stressful day, Hokage-sama, so if you please, we will be going home now. Come along dears, let's get back to bed. Hitomi looked at her husband and smiled a beautiful smile at him. It had taken this horrible event, but he was finally returning to the kind man he was when she had first married him. She carried Hinata, who looked over her mother's shoulder and told Naruto thank you again. Now only Naruto and a slightly shocked Minato were standing there. Naruto started whistling and walking away from him when he saw that he wasn't moving from his spot. For the next week, Naruto had left 200 clones to train in jutsu and create seals while he went to the Hyuga estate to be with Hinata. She was a really nice girl, but was also incredibly shy around him. She would always get red in the face whenever he gave her compliments or held her hand, and he didn't know what to make of it. Hey, he might be a super genius in the ninja arts, but he was only 5 years old. His mother had also cleaned out the home's library of any unclean materials before he was even born, so he didn't have any references to go on. That was the only reason he couldn't use medical techniques yet. Anyway, the incident with Kumo had been resolved peacefully, with Kumo having to compensate heavily for it. Since the ninja had been captured alive, they had no choice but to concede when he confessed. It also had helped that they didn't want any potential clients to know that one of their Chunin had been beaten by a 5-year-old child. They would be the laughing stock of the elemental nations if that got out to the public. Naruto was currently sitting on a park bench when he heard a slight sobbing noise. It was coming from behind a tree not far back in the woods. He spotted a girl around his age crying in a fetal position. She had long raven hair and coal-black eyes, and in his opinion, she seemed very beautiful. "Why are you crying? Is there anything I can do to help you?" asked Naruto, trying to get her to stop crying. He always hated to see girls cry, no matter the reason. "My father said that I was an embarrassment to the clan because my twin brother beats me in spars. I only lose because he cheats by using weapons while I can't," said the girl. Naruto scowled at the blatant show of favoritism towards one child, a twin no less, as he could most certainly identify with her problem. He leaned down and dried her tears with his hand while smiling as warmly as he can at her. "I can understand what it feels like. My parents always favor my twin sister over me, and sometimes even forget that I exist. I think that people like us should stick together, so would you be my friend?" said the smiling Naruto. The girl looked at him and blushed, quickly looking away so he wouldn't catch it. She smiled brightly and nodded her head while he grabbed her hand and helped her up. "By the way, what's your name?" said the girl. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, what's yours?" "It's Satsuki Uchiha." "Well Satsuki, I hope that we can get along great. Let's go play in the trees," said an enthusiastic Naruto. For the rest of the day, Naruto had played with Satsuki, and had even taught her the tree walking exercise. She was ecstatic to learn it, as it would help her chakra control that was necessary when mastering the Uchiha fire techniques. After an eventful day, they eventually went their separate ways, promising to meet each other whenever possible with the park as their meeting place. 8 years later. Ability Overview. Skip until next bold if you don't care. Now at age 13, Naruto was currently meditating while floating in the air. Around him were balls of water, rings of fire, currents of lightning, and a light shell of earth. He had finally mastered all of his affinities, along with the wood, lava, boil, ice, storm, and plasma releases. He has mastered many jutsu for each element to the point he no longer requires hand signs, as well as creating many jutsu himself. His Fuinjutsu had gotten to godlike levels in this last year. He created seals that could replicate the effects of jutsu, getting the idea after he met a boy named Rock Lee, who could not mold chakra properly. All they required was a drop of blood from either Naruto or Lee. He only gave them to the boy and for himself, as he didn't want civilians to become more powerful than many ninja due to him selling them. There are too many types of seals he had invented to be listed here actually, but his most noteworthy was finding a way to destroy the Orochimaru curse mark of heaven. Anko was more than pleased, and even tried to thank him in a very UAL way. He refused only because he was 9 at the time. He also kept this hidden, as he wanted to be on his sister's genin team. Other dealings with Lee came when he mastered medical ninjutsu to a degree that would put Tsunade to shame. He combined his seals with the medical techniques, and created a much more efficient means of surgical procedure. He had actually operated with assistance from his clones to keep his secrecy, and fixed the problem Lee had with his chakra pathways. They became fully functional when Naruto turned 10, but Lee kept the jutsu scrolls, saying he was still a taijutsu specialist, and would like an ace up his sleeve just in case he was ever in a pinch. You should have seen the looks on the faces of the medical examiners when they checked only to find his pathways were completely healed. They claimed that only an act of kami could have caused this case. How wrong they were. Naruto isn't at god level yet. He was close, but he still needed to surpass the Kyuubi in terms of raw chakra to become a true god. His chakra chains had also been developed very nicely. He was able to take them to a level Kushina never had before. They no longer had to come out of his back, as he was able to manipulate them anywhere he could see. He had also created a few A ranks to S rank techniques by using them. The most powerful one was what he called the elemental world of chains. He considered it to be a SSS rank technique because it was really a modified version of Chibaku Tensai, which was what the Sage of Six Paths used to create the moon. Its size varied on the amount of chakra he put into it, which was now enough to be 10 times as large as Konoha in his case. Chains of chakra would appear in the air and wrap tightly around each other, creating a huge ball. If released from his grasp, the ball would come flying down to earth, destroying everything in its path. That, coupled with the fact that the chains could be coated in elemental chakra, made it a truly frightening technique. He almost never used his genjutsu anymore. The last time he used it on a group of thugs, he had actually created demons through mind power alone. The tortures became real to the point everyone around the victim could see what was happening to him. He was actually afraid he was tampering too far into the realm of the gods by creating new life, so he backed off considerably from learning more in the art. This is how he learned he had somehow recreated yin-yang release. He still needed more power before he starts any godlike work. Taijutsu was the most difficult for him, as his body still needed to grow. However, he found a way around that by placing seals all over his body to enhance it to incredible levels. His limbs were now each coated in 3 layers of chakra. The first was the main layer of strengthening chakra. The second had lightning chakra to stimulate his muscles and nerves even further. The final layer was made up of a fine layer of healing chakra, increasing his regenerative abilities to a level greater than even the Jinchuriki. The gravity seals placed on him were also maxed out at 100 times Earth's atmosphere thanks to the regeneration of the torn muscles. He was extremely fit for his age, but had more of a swimmer's body than a bodybuilder. His chakra pool had grown to what should have been impossible levels thanks to the almost countless seals he had placed around his body, as well as the natural Uzumaki bloodline on top of that. It was around 7 taels worth in terms of amount, and its potency was about as great as demonic energy. However, his control had still remained completely perfect due to his Senju blood and constant training. He found out his father was actually the great-grandson of the second Hokage, so it made sense he excelled in control. Another technique he created was called the chakra gun. It was very versatile, like the Rasengan, and was an easily modified technique. He simply held his thumb up, and index and middle finger towards the target, and adds however much chakra he wanted for the various techniques. Only he, Natsumi, and his mother could use it because it dealt with chakra shape manipulation. The versions varied from Senbon needles, to the regular gun, to his most deadly version so far, the chakra bomb barrage. It was a sulfur monosulfide rank to SSS rank technique because it could take all of the chakra of the user to make it as powerful as possible. Naruto had enough chakra to level half of Fire Country if he used all of his chakra. However, his favorite and most frequently used skill dealt with weapons. He had to hide his true abilities, so he focused on weapons for the past year to throw any suspicion off of his back, as Inu, one of his favorite Anbu, had come very close to catching him train when he was too careless. He was able to learn weapon crafting from old texts that were, for some reason, stored in the Uzumaki vault. He briefly wondered if Kushina had ever even thought to try and look through all of these scrolls. It was their heritage after all. He quickly learned that the weapons created were very special. He had gotten permission from his mother and father to use the forge on their property, as it hadn't been used in quite a while. They thought that he was just going to try to make kunai or something, so what was the harm? After practicing the fine art of smithing and mastering it after an entire year of training, he finally created one of the special weapons. It was a scythe with a black blade and 5 red stripes going down it. It glowed an unsettling red aura, and any weapons master or smith could tell it was sentient. He spoke with the blade, and learned it was called Thanatos, or the Harbinger of Death. It could be infused with wind chakra to create a move he called the Black Wind, which killed any living organism it touched. It was an S-rank technique due to the fact it was a guaranteed kill if the move connected, and it was so fast, it was very difficult to dodge. His second weapon was no less impressive, and was a katana called Messiah, which was the polar opposite of Thanatos. It emitted a holy blue flame when fire chakra was added. He had mainly used the move, Divine Judgment, which was when the blue flame was flung into the air and came raining down on a large scale, making it an S-rank technique. The most unexpected creation of his was that of his violin, Orpheus. It was incredibly rare to see sentient instruments, mainly because they were nearly impossible to create. It was what allowed him to better control the strength of his genjutsu, as it became a medium with a conscience. He could kill an entire battlefield full of soldiers, and not affect any allies due to this new control. His most effective technique for this was a song he called Wings of Dread. It made all of the enemy see black wings coming from their backs, which then proceed to choke them to death with black shadowed tendrils coming out of them while showing them the deaths of all those precious to them in the most terrible ways they could think of, causing the brain to shut down after taking continuous physical and mental strain. It became a sulfur monosulfide rank technique, seeing as how only those with a fully mastered Mangekyo Sharingan could hope to break it, and affected all enemies who could hear it. He was able to test these abilities out due to blood clones staying at his home while he goes out to hunt in bandit camps. Minato really should keep the Forbidden Scroll in a much more secure location. End ability overview. Back to the story, he was now walking towards his normal meeting place at the park with Hinata and Satsuki. The two girls quickly became friends, but he knew that they were vying for his affections. He learned around age 9, when his godfather Jiraiya had to teach him of after Anko tried to jump him, and his godmother Tsunade beat the living crap out of said pervert for trying to corrupt him, that they were obviously attracted to him. He finally went to the library and checked out some romance novels, only to find out he was acting that way towards them in some ways already. He wasn't sure if he loved them or not, but he was attracted to them. Of course, you would have to be gay not to be. They looked just like their mothers did when they were their age, which was like comparing them to goddesses. Hinata had grown her hair out to her lower back, and had developed an impressive B-cup. Satsuki also had her hair at the same length, but had an A-cup instead. Not that it made her any less beautiful than Hinata. Many boys had tried to get their attention, but quickly backed off when they saw that they were with Naruto. Speaking of Satsuki, he had grown much closer to her after the Uchiha massacre when they were 8. He had rushed in and was able to save her, her mother, and her twin brother Sasuke. He was treated with respect by the remaining 3, as he had single-handedly defeated Itachi, who was executed later the same day. He thought Sasuke would be jealous, but he just begged Naruto to train him so he could protect his family from this ever happening again. Naruto agreed, and was helping him along, and he was at mid-Chunin level already. He only asked that they keep who saved them a secret until after the Chunin exams he would compete in, to which they readily agreed. Anyway, Naruto had finally reached the thick wooded area where they usually met up and saw the 2 angels. He was wearing his usual outfit, which was the basic black Anbu attire for his body, black open-toed sandals, and a long black trench coat. They were waiting with smiles on their faces, due to the fact they can stop holding back, and Naruto can at least show more of his strength. They, as well as Natsumi, now knew about his chakra-mixing bloodline, but kept it secret for fear that he would be forced into a breeding program by the council. Today is the day of graduation, and they are now heading towards the academy for a final time after meeting up. Satsuki speaks up to break the silence. So you guys, what do you think we should show? I mean, Hinata and I are about mid to high Chunin level, and Naruto-kun here is God knows what level, so we have to think this through now. I will most likely be placed with Natsumi, not that I mind. I just wish you two would be on my team as well," said the slightly downcast Naruto. The two looked sad for a minute before perking up, telling him that they will still meet as often as they can when not on missions. Iruka settled down the class quickly with his big head technique, which was standard for all academy teachers. The written tests were easy, all of his friends getting perfect scores. Same with the accuracy tests with ranged weapons. In the taijutsu tournament, Naruto, Sasuke, Natsumi, Satsuki, Hinata, and Kiba advanced. The semi-finals contained Naruto, Satsuki, and Sasuke, having won their previous rounds. It was a three-way tournament with the winner being the last one standing. The class gathered around the sparring area to see the most exciting match of the year. All three were tied so far when it came to the Rookie of the Year title. Alright, this will be just like the previous matches. Any moves that are not taijutsu will get you disqualified immediately, and no killing or badly injuring your opponent. Are you all ready? Then begin. Satsuki and Sasuke immediately both went after Naruto, hoping to get an advantage in teamwork. Naruto saw this coming, and simply waited for them to reach him before he lazily bent his body backwards, dodging the punches, and used the momentum to come back at them with his fists, hitting them both in the stomach. Even with all of his restriction seals on, that still hurt like hell. Both tried changing tactics several times, but none worked. Eventually, Naruto got bored and disappeared in a burst of speed the Chunin couldn't even see, and knocked them both to the ground with his hands on the backs of their necks. They conceded quickly, and he was declared the winner by an amazed Iruka. Next up was the ninjutsu and genjutsu tests, which they easily passed. The extra jutsu many used were clan techniques, but Naruto used his own chakra gun at a medium power level to decimate a training dummy in one shot. The entire class was once again amazed, as it was very difficult to create new jutsu. Naruto got the Rookie of the Year, while Satsuki received Kunoichi of the Year. Neither of them cared about the title because it didn't really matter, as it was usually just an ego booster for the powerful and arrogant. Alright students, come back next week to get your team placements. If you're late, then there will be bad first impressions for you from your Chunin squad leader. Dismissed. Alright, thought Naruto, I still have time to perfect my recreation of Tsunade's super strength. That will come in handy for dealing with arrogant people. There's nothing like knocking them down a few pegs by overpowering them with one finger. And so, for the next week, he thought that he would be peacefully destroying a training ground. Unfortunately, fate just loves to screw with him when it concerns his relationships with others. Poor Naruto has to go through some tough crap very soon. It was not a good day for one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He was currently more pissed off than he had been in years. The only time he was angrier was when he heard that the Hyuga elders wanted to place a caged bird seal on Hinata. He was even more pissed when he learned that they had been poisoning Hitomi in the hopes that she would die. Luckily he made it in time to save her, but he had to reveal his new medical skills to Hinata, Hitomi, and Hiashi, but they promised not to tell anyone. About the elders, he killed them of course, and no one ever found out who did it because he covered his tracks really well. That and it helped that Hiashi and Hitomi hated their guts as well. He really did not think that this week could be so complicated, but he was proven very wrong. He thinks back on why he is currently destroying a training ground in an abandoned section of the forest with disgust. Flashback. Everything was going just fine for Naruto today. The sun was in the sky, birds were chirping loudly, and he was training as usual. But he couldn't help but feel that something big was going to happen soon. Unfortunately, he is always right about these kinds of things. His parents were talking in their home casually as usual, eating breakfast with their daughter Natsumi. For the past few years, they had ignored Naruto to train Natsumi in the Kyuubi chakra, as they put it so many times. Truthfully, Naruto had been more useful to her in that endeavor by altering her seals slightly, which allowed the chakra to be purified better before entering her system. She now had control of 3 tails, while her parents had only helped her with the first one. She also didn't like how they treated Naruto, but didn't speak up due to him asking her not to. In the previous years, the resentment against his parents had been growing at a much faster rate. Before, they had always just excluded him from training. Now, however, he wasn't even remembered when clan affairs were involved. He wouldn't have minded much since they were mostly meetings, but they had announced publicly that he was no longer the heir. That had pissed both of the siblings off. Natsumi didn't want to be the heir, and Naruto was denied what was his by birthright. Needless to say, Naruto became even more distant than usual towards them. He no longer even spoke to them if he didn't absolutely have to. They were quietly eating when Kushina finally noticed that Naruto wasn't there. "Hey Minato-kun, Natsumi-chan, do you know where Naruto-kun could be? I haven't seen him all morning, and he is usually down here if I'm not mistaken." Something in Natsumi snapped when she talked as if she knew him, when she really had no idea about him. "And how would you know? You never pay attention to him, and you haven't even gotten him a birthday present since he was 9. What kind of mother and father forgets their own child? If I was a mother, all of my children would be loved equally." Natsumi stormed out of the door, leaving a stunned Minato and Kushina. They felt ashamed of themselves for not taking a more active role in their son's life. "Minato-kun, what have we done? How could I have done this to my own son? I'm a horrible mother," said Kushina, sobbing loudly. "I'm not any better, and I haven't taught him anything in his entire life. He probably struggled in the academy much more because of me. I honestly don't know how I allowed this to happen. We have to fix this Kushi-chan, we need to get his forgiveness. I'm sure he will accept our apology if we train him in our taijutsu and kenjutsu styles. I should teach him the Rasengan as well, it's very powerful and I know he would want to learn it," said the sadly mistaken Minato. That night at dinner, they told Naruto that they were having a family meeting. He was confused due to the fact that he was almost never needed for family events. He thought it was probably due to the fact that they had passed the Genin exams, and wanted him to explain how he got the Rookie of the Year title and Natsumi had not even gotten Kunoichi of the Year. But for some reason, he had a bad feeling in his gut, and that feeling was almost never wrong. Too bad he didn't know that they would be unaware of the rankings until the next day. He would have to be careful, just in case they somehow knew about his second and third bloodlines. No one else could know until the Chunin exams. So here he is, his parents standing in front of him and Natsumi, sadly smiling at him. "Naruto-kun, your mother and I have been thinking that we haven't been treating you fairly these past few years, and would like to make it up to you. We will train you in our styles and jutsu now, so please forgive us for what we have done," said a somber Minato. Naruto had his head down. His spiky blonde hair that reached down to his lower back was currently shadowing his face, but they could see that he was trembling. They thought he was either going to cry, or lash out in anger against them, but they were seriously mistaken. Naruto wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing his anger just yet, so he concealed his emotions and decided to freak them out a little. He started chuckling a little, which grew in volume gradually until he was in nearly hysterical laughter, rolling around on the ground clutching his sides. They were both confused and quite worried for their son's sanity at this point until he finally stood up and looked at them with eyes that carried slight amusement and a ton of anger for them. "And why should I just forgive you, Why should I even care that you want to teach me now since you have ignored me for so long? I don't hate Natsumi for what you two have done to me, but I despise the both of you. You aren't even fit to be parents if you forget one of your children. Even if I had 100 children, I would make time for all of them. Consequences to the outside world be damned. So don't you dare ever think that I will forgive you, because I won't. I'm packing my things and moving out today, so don't bother me unless you have official ninja work, Hokage-sama." Both Minato and Kushina were shocked and saddened by his outburst, but knew they didn't have any right to speak out against what he said. Kushina tried to tell him he couldn't move out due to still being a child, but he just pointed to his headband and said, "As soon as I put this headband on, I became an adult. I'm old enough to kill, drink, and have if I want to, which I plan on having before marriage, as well as move out." She was silenced by that remark, knowing that it was true. He came back down with several small sealing scrolls and 2 large ones. He pulled out his biggest scroll, which was as big as he was, and sealed most of them into it. A few of the smaller ones he just put into slots in his Anbu-like uniform. Minato and Kushina were crying at the door, while Natsumi gave him a hug, telling him that she would miss him. He told her that he would as well, giving her a small scroll of C-ranked jutsu discreetly, and set off to blow off some steam at a training ground before buying any property. Flashback end. He halted his assault on the training ground to survey the damage, and he was very satisfied. He may have been wearing resistance seals and weights, but there were craters all over the place. He estimated he was still around High Anbu Captain with all of his seals and weights on. Without them, he could already beat Kushina, who was a cage-level ninja, Minato, the Sannin, all of Konoha, and the other 4 cage at the same time. Very impressive, but he wanted to get even stronger. He wanted to be strong enough to try to become a god, just like the Sage of Six Paths. He didn't have the Rinnegan, but he did learn that the reason his chakra was so potent now was because he did have the Sage's chakra. Once he unlocked it to its full potential, the potency rose to the level of demonic energy, but was a pure silver color. It made his jutsu and weapons much more effective as well, around 10x better. He had only truly unlocked its full potential a few weeks ago, so really he was already cage level in terms of sheer power with the weights and seals still on. What he didn't know is that the only reason he didn't have the Rinnegan was because he had never been in a life-threatening situation before, which was what caused the awakening of it. If he were to ever come close to death, he would awaken it. His anger at his parents had already unlocked some of its abilities though. He had found a nice place to live as well. It was smaller than the Namikaze estate, but still considered a mansion. It had 3 stories to it, 1 for living space, and had enough room for around 40 people to live comfortably. Another for his extensive library, and the final floor was his personal study of sorts. It is where he is now going to be keeping all of his works in progress, which were mainly new seals, and the vault. His vault was the most secure location in the entire world right now. Not only did he have several hundreds of clones guarding the estate constantly, he had also placed firewall seals around the vault to fry any person with unfamiliar chakra. His vault itself contained several reinforcement seals, making it impossible to break, and a failsafe to fry everything in there so no one will ever take his secrets. He had really only kept the vault so future generations of his could learn his jutsu and techniques. After all, he was planning on creating a separate clan right now. He came up with the idea for a new clan right after he left his old home. He would easily qualify for the CRA in any village due to having 3 bloodlines, which meant he could take on multiple wives. He really didn't know how to feel about that now, but his main purpose was to create a clan that was not based around the constant power struggle in the village. No, his clan would be founded upon the ideals of peace and neutrality. They would be neutral in any outside affairs, and the clan would be an actual family, not some segregated community where barely anyone likes each other. He heard that the Uzumaki clan used to be like that, so he was really just restarting that one. The clan's specialties would be Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu just as the old clan, but also focus more on the chakra manipulation as well. His chakra gun could only be known by those with the bloodline, so it did count as a clan technique. He came up with a different clan name as well, which would be Kyoshi. It meant purity, and he named it such because he wanted the clan to be pure of the sins of the outside world. He trained more during the week and was finally able to master the super strength. It was greater than Tsunade's version because he had better control, so it was a very notable accomplishment. Time skip, day of team placements. Naruto was waiting in the academy for what was hopefully the last time, waiting for the teams to be called. He didn't know who he would be paired with, but had a hunch one of them would be Natsumi. He didn't mind that at all, but he really wanted Hinata and Satsuki to be with him as well. Iruka began to speak, stopping his train of thought. Well class, today you will be going into your future career as a shinobi. Remember that from now on, you are all considered adults, and must behave as such. Now, onto the team selections, Team 1 to 6. He tuned out until Team 7 was called. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Actually, I have disowned myself from that clan, so please call me Naruto Kiyoshi from now on, said a slightly irritated Naruto. The class was shocked at this information, while Natsumi looked sad that he was no longer her big brother technically. Hinata and Satsuki were happy that he was finally out of the so-called family, because they knew that he wasn't happy. A stunned Iruka just nodded and moved on with the list. Oh okay. Well, as I was saying, Naruto Kiyoshi, Natsumi Uzumaki Namikaze, Satsuki Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga will be on Team 7. Hokage-sama has decided to create a 4-man team this year as an experiment to see if they are much more efficient, along with 2 Junin sensei. Your Junin sensei will be Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze and Makoto Uchiha. Naruto couldn't believe his luck. Of course, he had to put up with Kushina, but it was worth it to be with Hinata, Satsuki, Natsumi, and Makoto, who he saw as his real mother. He would just ignore everything Kushina said and did unless it was official business. On a side note, he was really thrilled to hear that Sakura Haruno had dropped out of the program when she learned there was no chance she would be paired with Sasuke on the teams. She would have died trying to catch Tora the cat. Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Sasuke Uchiha, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your Junin instructor will be Kakashi Hitaki. Team 9 will be Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamichi, and Shikamaru Nara. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Shortly afterwards, both Kushina and Makoto came walking through the door. Team 7, meet us on the rooftop in 10 minutes for our first meeting. They both disappeared in a swirl of leaves, but much to the shock of most of the class, so did all of the members of said team. Naruto though used lightning and water instead of the standard leaf shunshin, which was much easier than his elemental version. Naruto was the first to the rooftop, followed by the senseis, then the girls. All of them were shocked he had even beaten Makoto, the supposed queen of the shunshin, who mastered the technique to a frightening degree to where it could be used in combat. The girls still had no idea what he was truly capable of, but thought he was around mid to high Junin. They were obviously proven wrong, and he still had his seals and weights on. The sensei snapped out of their stupor first because they needed to administer the test today, so they needed to hurry up introductions. It was too late now to promote Naruto since he was an official genin, so he would have to wait until the Chunin exams. That worked fine for him since he could show some of his power off now. Well, Team 7, I know that we all know who each other are, but we will still do the introductions just for the heck of it. We'll go first to show you what we want to know. Tell us what your likes, dislikes, and dreams. My name is Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, my likes are all of my family. She looks at Naruto, who just ignores her, friends, and village. My dislikes are rapists, perverts, people who make fun of my hair, and those who judge others for what they can't control. My dream is to reunite my family to the way it should be, and to have tons of grandchildren one day. Natsumi blushed hard at the statement, and was glancing at Naruto for some reason, while Naruto was thinking he would never let his children anywhere near her or Minato. My turn, I suppose. My name is Makoto Uchiha. My likes are my children, village, friends, and Naruto-kun. My dislikes are perverts, rapists, liars, and those who show favoritism in any sense. Kushina bowed her head down at that. The two had a falling out years ago after Naruto helped save her and her children, and hadn't recovered completely revived their friendship. My dream is to help my children in any way that I can, and to have many grandchildren to spoil. So hurry up, Satsuki, I'm not getting any younger, said the joking Makoto. Satsuki was blushing up a storm at the comment, while Naruto was, surprisingly, also blushing. He would definitely allow his children to be around Makoto, and was even hoping for her to be the actual grandmother. He thought back on how he had gotten so close with the family with a certain fondness. Flashback. Day of the Uchiha massacre. Makoto, Sasuke, and Satsuki were standing over the body of their now headless husband, father, while Itachi was fighting an angry Naruto. Itachi was nearly 1 inch away from stabbing Satsuki in the chest when he arrived, so he was pissed the F*** off. No one messed with his friends, and he was determined to beat the living shit out of him before he killed him. The other 3 Uchiha watched in morbid fascination as they learned that a human spine can only bend so far before it completely snapped. Needless to say, Itachi was writhing in horrible agony, so Naruto let him live for a while because he knew that he would be executed anyway. The 3 remaining Uchiha thanked him and tried to reward him, which he refused. He only asked that they did not tell anyone about who saved them. They agreed, and told anyone who asked that they did not get a good look at their savior, instead mourning over their clan. No one questioned them after that. Flashback end. Alright, enough joking around. Hinata, you're up next. My name is Hinata Hyuga. My likes are Naruto-kun, my friends, family, and a few in the village. My dislikes are perverts, rapists, child neglect, and the caged bird seal. My dream is to one day see that the Hyuga will become one family, even if I am not the head, and to have a family with the one that I love, said the blushing Hinata, looking at Naruto, who just smiled at her. She squeaked slightly and looked away. Alright then, next up is Satsuki. My name is Satsuki Uchiha. My likes are the same as Hinata. My dislikes are also the same, but with the addition of the civilian council. My dream is to become a successful kunoichi and one day raise a family with one that I love. Satsuki also glanced at Naruto, who just smiled like he did with Hinata. I don't know how neither sensei caught the exchange either time. Natsumi, you're next. My name is Natsumi Uzumaki Namikaze. I like the same things as Hinata and Satsuki. My dislikes are also the same. My dream is to one day become the strongest kunoichi, as well as have a family, and love my children equally. Kushina once again put her head down, as she had no right to speak up at the obvious jab at her skills as a mother. Natsumi also looked at Naruto, who once again gave her a smile. He thought about how she had changed over the past few years with a slight blush. She was much more beautiful than Kushina ever was, and even as beautiful as Satsuki and Hinata. He remembered getting angry when many of the boys would look at her like a piece of meat or a prize to be won. He hated anyone looking at her like that, and he didn't know why, but he was jealous whenever she even touched another boy, even for simple handshakes. It was also the same way with Satsuki and Hinata. Last but not least, you're up Naruto. Alright then, my name is Naruto Kiyoshi, and before you say anything, it was my decision to cut myself off from the clan I was originally from, said Naruto sternly after seeing Kushina about to speak up. Kushina was, at this point, heartbroken. She knew her son hated her, but he really hated her so much that he refused to be in the same clan as her. She was barely able to control the tears that were threatening to fall, as Chunin were supposed to control their personal emotions at all times. My likes are my friends, little sister, and a small amount of people from Konoha. My dislikes are the same as the other three, but with the addition of Minato and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, as well as a majority of Konoha. My dream is to begin a clan that is founded upon the ideals of neutrality and family, as well as marry those who love me and me love them back. Kushina was having a very hard time not crying right now, while the other girls looked at him with blushes. Makoto was definitely going to use Satsuki's blush against her later, and tease her relentlessly. Well, you all have unique and great dreams. We were going to have a separate genin test, but there is no need since I have been training with all of the girls, and know that you all work great together. The team leader will be Naruto since he has not only the highest IQ out of all of us, as shown by the specialized tests, but also proven himself to me and all of you that he is reliable. He is in charge in case Kushina or I are incapacitated, said the still amused Makoto, not really caring if Kushina was upset since she deserved to hear that. And so for the first month, their lives were filled with the wondrous D-rank missions and training. Just kidding, the missions sucked big time, but the training really was decent. They found out the affinities of all of the girls and Naruto as well. He just played along like he didn't already know. Hinata had water, Satsuki had fire and lightning, Natsumi had wind and fire, and Naruto had all of them. The looks on all of their faces when they saw the paper pretty much explode was priceless. He had to control his laughter and act shocked so he didn't alert them that he already knew. That would not be good at all, because as a genin, the council still had a say in who he would marry later on if he deliberately hid a bloodline from the village, and he did not want to marry someone like Sakura. They all learned new jutsu, and Naruto taught Natsumi some variations of the chakra gun. It was a clan technique, but only the two of them and Kushina could learn it, so there was no real harm. He also taught several C to B rank techniques to them, in secret of course. He was also able to finally master his Hyout and bloodline. It wasn't normally very damaging, but he tried mixing the chakra further with his plasma release, and the results were interesting. The ice became completely green, and would freeze just about anything. It was much colder than anything he had ever produced, and would kill almost anything it came into contact with. He came up with a very destructive technique called Ice Age, which was a large area jutsu that would kill everything in the area. The only way someone could escape was by going deep underground or very high in the sky, and even then the area stays at absolute zero. They couldn't survive long at all in those conditions. It's too bad he had to wipe out an entire bandit camp to realize its full potential, but they were worthless scum that needed to die anyway. He was wearing the same all-black outfit, and over the years had grown his hair out to his lower back. It wasn't as spiky as before, and he just let it flow down naturally instead of tying it up. But the biggest change was that instead of just being blonde, it also had black streaks running through it. The unfortunate thing about this was that as soon as he had earned the Rookie of the Year title, the fangirls Sasuke had started migrating over to his side. Of course, they stayed away after Natsumi. Hinata and Satsuki had pretty much gone rabid on a mob of them trying to chase him. The team was currently heading to the mission assignment area in the Hokage Tower. They were finally going to get a C-rank mission, even though they were ready from the beginning for one. Kushina and Minato were now highly regretting ever letting Naruto go. From what they had seen, he appeared to be at mid-Chunin level in raw power, and he was only lacking experience. What they were dreading most, however, was that he become like another Itachi due to their early treatment of him. They were mistaken on both counts, but he thought he should limit what he would show them to only Chunin level. Didn't want them getting too suspicious, and they hadn't even seen his summons yet. That's right, Naruto had gained a summoning contract as well. But it was not just an ordinary contract. It was one of the legendary 3 contracts that no one else had signed in over 1,000 years. They were the Dragon, Tiger, and Wolf clan summons, and he had the Wolf contract. He smiled as he remembered the day he had gotten the legendary clan as allies. Flashback. Naruto, now 11 years old, was walking through the forest of death to gather herbs for a new medicine he was developing that would cure the Chunin Hayate's sickness. He felt sorry for the man, so he felt he should help him. He felt a strange energy pulling him out of his thoughts, and straight into a large cave nearby. He activated his eyes so he would be able to see in the dark cave, and was amazed at what he found. It contained 3 large statues of animals. One was of a dragon, another made to look like a tiger, and the last was shaped like a wolf. He moved closer to them and saw that there was a large summoning scroll beneath each of the statues, but decided not to move any closer due to a force field of golden flames shooting around the statues. He then saw words begin to form in midair made of the flame. The first thing that appeared was a question. It asked, "What is the most important thing to you?" and gave 3 choices. They were power, family, and peace. Naruto, thinking this was some sort of trial for the scrolls, answered family since he wanted to be honest. The flame shifted into another question which asked, "What would you give up for that family's safety?" The 3 choices this time were power, peace, and everything. Once again being honest, he answered everything. The flame spun around him, even seeming to go through him, until the 3rd question was asked. What would you do with immense power if it was granted to you? The choices were destroy all of my enemies, bring peace to the world, and protect those precious to me. This time, Naruto was slightly hesitant to answer truthfully because it was most likely to bring peace. He was not an idealistic fool like most were in Konoha, and knew the reality of the world was that people die very often, and most are meaningless deaths. The world will never truly be at peace because there will always be people who lust over power and ruin that peace trying to gain more of it. He answered again honestly that he would protect those precious to him. The flames dissipated around one of the statues, but remained around the other 2. He walked forward and picked up the scroll, which was the wolf scroll, and read the inscription on the plate that it was lying on. Family is the key principle to those with the personality of the wolf. Peace is left to the tigers, and power lies with the dragons, but the wolf is either one who stands alone or with the pack to defend what is precious to them. Take the scroll, O man of the pack, and protect thine family from what evil is to come. Naruto clutched onto the scroll as he was tossed out of the cave by an unknown force. When he looked up to see what had happened, the cave was gone. He looked happily at the scroll, knowing that the Wolf Clan was a legendary contract only the Sage of 6 Paths had signed, so the toads had nothing on them. He wondered what the looks on his family's faces would be like when he summoned their boss. He was curious, so he did summon the boss a few days later, and he was really glad he set up visual and chakra barrier seals up around the forest he was in. The boss, a Nagetsu, was at least twice as large as the toad boss, and looked much more intimidating than the Kyuubi ever would. He had 10 tails flowing behind him, and claimed that he had earned them instead of being born with them. He claimed that in terms of raw power, he was superior to the Kyuubi as well, and Naruto believed him. It was hard for even him to stand up with his resistance seals on when the boss used his full ki pressure against him, which had shown him that one tail makes a huge difference. He finished the medicine and gave it to Hayate, and it cured him within 2 days. His girlfriend, Yugao Izuki, thanked Naruto profusely and kissed him on the cheek, much to Naruto's embarrassment. He was glad that he did the right thing though. Flashback end. He was snapped out of his thoughts by Natsumi, who was shaking him violently, asking him what was wrong. Huh? Oh, sorry Natsumi-chan. I just spaced out there for a second thinking about what our new mission is going to be about. Natsumi blushed at the suffix, while Satsuki and Hinata glared lightly at her. Makoto also noticed, but didn't say anything, thinking it was just a slip of the tongue. Kushina was too far into depression to hear it. Well, try to pay more attention next time Naruto-kun. I don't care if you listen to me or not, but you should really be more considerate. Said the tsundere Natsumi. She always acted like that whenever Naruto would do something that embarrassed her. The two girls glared more at her, while Makoto was thinking that Natsumi thought of Naruto as more than just a brother. They walked into the mission assignment room to find Minato and Iruka handing out missions to random teams. Minato had been depressed ever since Naruto left both the house and clan, but there was nothing he could do about it. There were no clan laws from the Uzumaki or Namikaze clans that prohibited self-expulsion from the clan, so his hands were tied. Team 7 reporting for 1 C-rank mission, and yes Iruka, we have the required amount of D ranks to receive one. Said an irritated Makoto. Iruka could be such a mother hen sometimes. Very well, we have 2 missions to choose from. One is border patrol for the next 2 weeks, and the other is an escort to Wave for a bridge builder. Said Minato in his Hokage tone. The Genin and Junin discussed it together for a minute before choosing the escort mission. Patrol duty just wasn't their forte, except for Hinata, and unknowingly to them, Naruto. Protection was a much better use of their skills. Minato yelled for the client to come in, when a drunk, gray-haired man stumbled through the door. Okay, hick, is this what I'm paying for? I want some, hick, real damn protection. The 2 women look like they're going to be teaching infants, the blonde girl looks like an idiot, the raven-haired girl looks like she will die, hick, from the sunlight, and the blind-looking girl looks like she's gonna die from being stared at for too long. The blonde boy looks okay, but is most likely weak like the rest of, hick, them. Said the obviously drunken man. A kunai suddenly appeared between the now terrified man's legs, right below his goods. Naruto spoke in a voice that made even the Hokage shiver. I don't appreciate you calling me or my teammates, other than Kushina, weak. I can assure you that we are up to the task of killing a few bandits and even more if necessary, so don't ever insult my precious people again, okay? Tazuna nodded frightfully and ran out of the door. The girls were blushing at Naruto because he called them precious to him. Makoto was touched because he thought of her as precious, and Kushina was clenching her fists so hard blood came out. She wasn't angry, but the pain, ironically, helped her not to cry. Alright team, meet us at the gate in 2 hours for this mission. Don't be late or we're leaving you behind, said the energetic Makoto. All 3 of them used Shunshin to get back home, and had their own separate thoughts. The girls wanted to find a way for Naruto to see them as women and not just friends. Kushina was trying to think of ways she can make up what she had done to her son. Makoto was thinking of how this mission would most likely be their first kill mission. Naruto was trying to think if he should just send a high-powered blood clone so he could relax for once, but decided against it, just in case he missed something important. He packed everything he would need for the month ahead, as well as his weapons and a few jutsu scrolls he made for the girls. This would be a busy month. We find Naruto walking with the rest of Team 7 and an old drunk along the forest path. Tazuna was looking around with sweat pouring down his head, so it was obvious to Naruto and the Junin that he was hiding something that most likely made the mission a much higher rank than he claimed it to be. They all noticed the puddle in the road because it was such a stupid disguise for an area that hadn't had rain for weeks. I mean, really, who came up with that brilliant idea? They all glanced at each other and walked by the puddle as if nothing was wrong. Naruto suddenly turned around as soon as 2 hands came out of the water and threw immobilization tags on the now identified 2 demon brothers, Chunin level missing Nin. Alright, I'm going to ask you very nicely why you were going to attack us. Said an eerily calm Naruto. One of the brothers laughed at him and made a horrible mistake. Why the hell should we tell you anything, boy? You're just a weak little genin. Untie us so we can have some fun with those whores over there. Now Naruto was mad. No, scratch that, he was pissed the fuck off. The one thing he hated more than his family and neglecting children was rape, and they had just claimed that they were going to rape his most precious people. Guys, I'm going to go interrogate these two for more info, so wait here for now, said Naruto in a bone-chillingly hollow voice. The others could only nod while he dragged them away deeper into the woods. Oh shit, was the collective thought of everyone else. Not a minute later, screams of absolute agony were heard that sent chills through even the Chunin. Naruto came out about 10 minutes later with 2 scrolls in his hand and blood all over his shoes, smiling all the time. Well guys, the bodies are stored in these scrolls, and I sent for a messenger to pick it up from Konoha. It turns out they were sent by a man named Gato to kill Tazuna-san here. Not only that, but they are also working with Zabuza Momoichi and a girl named Haku Yuki that can use the Hyouten bloodline. Zabuza is at mid-Junin level and Haku is at mid-Chunin level, but we have 2 Junin and 4 Genin that are by far stronger than what our rank suggests, so I say that we continue the mission. The others agreed with this and they moved on in silence. The main reason for this is because he was holding a very bloody and sharp branch in his hands, along with some type of acid. They eventually reached the shoreline where they were to meet up with someone to row them across to Wave Country. Naruto walked alongside the boat on the water since there wasn't room for all of them, thinking the whole time if he should take on Zabuza himself. He limited his power even further with seals to bring him down to someone like Itachi's level, so he could still easily win if they fought if he used genjutsu. Kushina decided to hide in the wooded area around them in case enemies tried to surround them. When they reached the other side of the river, they were immediately on guard. Naruto heard a noise in the bushes and threw a kunai at it. He knew that the energy belonged to Zabuza, but used a substitution. He found a white bunny and screamed for everyone to get down when he heard the sound of metal flying through the air. Once everyone looked up, they saw Zabuza standing on his blade, which was currently embedded into a tree very deeply. Well, look at this. I didn't expect an A- class ninja like Makoto Uchiha to come to greet me. Looks like you have 4 brats with you as well. I would just like to say that we don't have to be enemies, just as long as you hand over the bridge builder. Tazuna looked like he was going to crap himself, and Makoto seemed unsure of what to do. Zabuza was out of her league, as she had taken a 10-year leave from the ninja forces to raise Satsuki and Sasuke. Now that was coming back to bite her in the ass. Kushina could take him easily enough, but she was scouting around God knows where for any info or enemy that may be nearby. She halted her thoughts when Naruto started laughing at Zabuza. She was confused as to why he was doing this, as he was not so stupid as to provoke a ninja that could be a threat to, oh wait. This is Naruto, so he isn't that much of a threat to us. She visibly relaxed when she thought about that, and counted on Naruto to take care of things for now. So this is the great demon of the mist. How shameful. I bet that the previous of the 7 swordsmen to wield that sword is rolling around in his grave. You threaten a weakened Junin and Genin to try and make yourself tough. Stop talking shit and fight like a real shinobi. Naruto launched forward at high Junin level speeds towards Zabuza, bringing out his sword, Messiah, at the last moment swinging at him. Zabuza was so shocked at the speed that he barely had time to react. He brought up his blade to block in time, but struggled to hold his ground. Naruto capitalized on this opportunity to have a good fight. He was weakened, but he was finally equal in power to the one he was fighting. He hadn't had that kind of fight since he went against Yagura, the 4th Mizukage. Itachi might have been an S-rank shinobi, but his physical stats were only on the level of Kakashi. Genjutsu was his forte. No one saw the two of them fight, but the rebels found his corpse and a sealing jar at the entrance of their base, with a note saying, "Here is that fried tyrant you ordered. The turtle soup is in the container next to you, N." Naruto had earned himself an S ranking in the bingo book under the name N for that, which he was very proud of. He planned on gaining a cooler nickname later on in life though. The Hidden Mist Village now has a 10 million Ryo reward for the one that can prove themselves as N, as well as a place of honor in their shinobi ranks, which he may claim someday. Zabuza brought his blade down in as hard as he could onto the much smaller katana that Naruto was wielding, making him struggle to keep his balance. Naruto shifted his weight to his back foot and twisted around in a wide arc, cutting Zabuza in the stomach. The two fighters broke apart and looked at each other for a moment. No words needed to be spoken, as their blades were speaking for them. Two swordsmen only truly understand each other when their blades are clashing. Both started making hand signs at a very quick pace, both ending at the same time. Water Dragon Jutsu, both called out. But there was a major difference in the size of the two. Zabuza made a slightly larger than average dragon, while Naruto made one larger than the Hokage Tower. Zabuza's current thoughts were, well, I'm completely fucked. Zabuza crashed through several trees when the attack hit, finally stopping after Naruto willed it to. He found himself tied to the tree in chakra chains with a katana to his neck. Naruto was about to finish the job when two senbons stuck into the man's neck. He looked behind him to see a girl in hunter nin attire. I thank you for helping me. I have been chasing him for several days, simply waiting for open. She would have finished if not for the fact that Naruto had thrown a kunai at her. Cut the crap, I know that you are working for Zabuza Hakuyuki. The demon brothers told me all that I wanted to know before I killed them, so don't even think about trying to worm your way out of this. Said the stoic Naruto. She was worried for two reasons right now. 1. She can't hope to beat someone who had defeated Zabuza in 2 minutes so easily. And 2, she was unable to use Shunshin to get out of there. I see you realized you can't use Shunshin. I had my clones set up a barrier that prevents that particular technique in this area. Don't worry too much though, as I have no intention of harming you. All I ask is that you hear me out on an offer that I want to make you. The hunter nin hesitantly nodded when she realized that she really had no other options. If what she had just seen was any indicator, she didn't have a chance in hell against the supposed genin. Okay then, I will not beat around the bush. I want for you and Zabuza to become part of my spy network. The pay is much better than what that filth Gato is offering you from what the demon brothers told me, and I don't want you to do anything that's this dangerous either. Not only will you be rewarded handsomely, but I will also see that you are given a place in Kiri in the ninja ranks. I have a lot of pull there since I ended the war myself after killing Yagura several months ago. Haku's neck snapped up at that, as did everyone else's when he said that. He was the mysterious N that had so many looking for them? N had several rumors circulating about him in almost every village in the elemental nations. Oh, and I also have privacy seals in place so no one can spy on us. I would advise that you don't tell anyone either unless you have a death wish. I am afraid that goes for everyone. I don't mean by me either. My spies would most likely kill anyone that knows my identity due to their fierce devotion to me. I saved them all at one point or another, so be careful not to even speak of me out in public other than in Konoha or in my presence. Haku and the others gulped at the thought of a spy network spanning the entirety of the continent. Not even Jiraiya could use his spies in places like the secluded village of Aim and Iron Country. I will tell you that the rumors of my spy network are true. No one is able to find them due to me placing such advanced memory seals and genjutsu combination, that anyone under SS rank couldn't even begin to look for them. I have also learned almost every village secret of every single village that exists. You wouldn't believe the shit that Konoha has been keeping under wraps for over 50 years. The same goes for every village. With what I have learned, I could destroy the entire system of shinobi within a few months at most. I just might do that if another shinobi world war threatens to break out. Just to share a glimpse of what I know, I will tell you all a few secrets of every major village. I recently discovered that the elders were actually behind the massacre of the Uchiha. Before you say anything Satsuki-chan and Makoto-san, I will explain. Itachi was the one who killed them, but only after Danzo forced one of his rude operatives that were a member of the Yamanaka clan replace his memories, making him think that everyone in the clan was going to betray Konoha for more power. To make matters worse, Danzo has 10 Sharingan eyes in his arm and covered eye socket. The others were amazed and disgusted at what he was saying, but Makoto and Satsuki were furious and crying that Itachi was killed for nothing due to the damn elders wanting more power for themselves. Naruto hugged Satsuki and let her calm down before he continued. I'm not finished. Aim caused the Second Shinobi War by instigating major tensions between the villages. Kiri caused the Bloodline War to place the focus off of their illegal dealings with the Brotherhood of Blood, which is a group of slavers. Kumo has attempted over 100 recorded kidnappings of various children in every clan known to the elemental nations to be used as breeding stock. Iwe has been selling its various civilians into slavery that disagree even slightly with their council. And, last but not least, another Konoha secret. Did you know that it was the first Hokage who began the fight with Madara in order to gain prestige for himself and Konoha? That's right, he actually killed Madara's wife Tenma in order to gain his hatred enough to attack him, forever making the Senju appear to be the good guys in history. Everyone couldn't believe what they were hearing. If any of this information leaked to the public, it would lead to a massive revolution between the civilians and ninja. Some ninja would side with the civilians because they were wronged as well, and that would lead to a massive amount of bloodshed due to the large armies of the samurai siding with them as well. The ninja may be more powerful, but they are outnumbered 500 to 1 with those kinds of odds. It would end very badly for them. Think on what I have told you, Haku-san. Oh, and you should know that Gato also has a habit of disposing of any missing nin he hires after he is done with them. And tell all of that to Zabuza-san when he wakes up, would you? The moment he released the barrier, she was gone in a swirl of ice. He turned towards Tazuna, who had been outside of the barrier at the time, and motioned for them to continue. No one said a word the entire way there, which confused Tazuna greatly. When they arrived back at his home, he knocked on the door and greeted his daughter Tsunami with a hug. A little boy came walking down the stairs and ran into his grandfather's arms. That was around the time Kushina showed up. Makoto relayed the fight to her, but left out what Naruto had said. He would be furious with her for telling the woman that he hated most one of his secrets. Hours after arriving, they were all seated at the table talking over plans on what to do with Gato. Inari was glaring at them all for a few minutes before he decided that it was enough. Alright, why do you even bother? You're all just going to die to Gato anyway. No one is strong enough to take him down. Naruto sighed at the boy's behavior. Inari, Gato may have control over a large amount of thugs, but we are ninja. We have trained nearly all of our lives for jobs like this, and none of us here wish to see you suffer any more at his hands. Naruto calmly explained, why are you even pretending to care about this village? You don't have any idea what it means to suffer like we have. You ninja live lives of comfort unless you're fighting. Naruto was deathly quiet for a moment as the key in the room spiked for a moment. Do you really believe that, Inari? If so, then I hate to burst your bubble, but life for all of us can be very difficult. We all have traumatic experiences, some that we don't even share with those closest to us. That includes me. Shall I tell you about the day that I vowed to become stronger than any other shinobi in the world? Listen closely, Inari, because this is the first and last time that I will be speaking about it. It all began with a simple walk through the woods. Flashback 10 years ago. Naruto age 3. Little Naruto was walking through the woods as a part of mapping out the area around Konoha. He had gotten bored of doing nothing but reading all day, so he decided to explore and learn calligraphy at the same time. For the first few hours, everything seemed fine, but then his senses picked up movement in the woods near him. At first, he didn't think anything about it due to many ninja wandering around on patrol, but then he realized that the patrol was on the other side of the gate at this time. He hid inside of the bushes to see what was coming, but was too late. A very large man picked him up by the shirt and grinned maliciously at him. Well boys, look at what we have here. It's a runt that just so happens to be the son of that bastard Hokage. You see kid, your dad did some real bad things to my friends and family, so I'm afraid we're going to have to send you to him in a garbage sack for some payback. The two of them were surrounded by even more bandits. It looked like there were at least 25 of them, and all of them wore the same smirk on their faces. At this point, Naruto began to get scared. He was only 3, and genius or not, his body couldn't handle that much physical abuse or strain. He knew that he was not getting out of there without serious injuries, so he formulated a plan to take some of them down before trying to flee to the inside of the walls. He kicked the one who was holding him in the nuts, making him let go and double over in pain. Naruto ran through the forest, getting hit by various objects like arrows and stones. When he finally made it to the gate, the guards noticed him covered in bruises and cuts. What the hell happened to you, Namikaze Uzumaki-sama? Where are the ones who did this? Asked the slightly frantic ninja, most likely only due to the fact that he was their leader's son. Bandits did it, and a lot of them too. They chased me halfway around the wall trying to kill me. Try to find them before they can hurt anyone else. The two nodded and speed off in different directions. One of them ran to look for the bandits, and the other one to inform the Hokage of the disturbance. They didn't make it in time though before something else happened. Flashback end. So what's the big deal? You were beaten by some thugs once. Others here have had worse happen to them here. At least you lived. That may be so, Inari, but you didn't let me finish. The bandits who were chasing me ran into a caravan along the way, and broke off into two separate groups, one to chase me down, and the other to raid the caravan. There were 3 adults and 5 children in there, and not a single one survived. I went to search for the bandits with him when he left in secret, and I will never forget what I saw. The children were pinned to a tree with blades and rope, and had obviously been raped before dying, and the same goes for the one woman. The 2 men were tied up with their eyelids forced open, meaning that they had to watch it happen, and had several deep cuts along their bodies. They bled to death on the way to the hospital. What you don't realize, Inari, is that I have lived knowing that if I had only been stronger, it could have been prevented. I have lived with the guilt of their deaths on my conscience ever since I was 3 years old. On top of that, my so-called parents never paid any attention to me, and threw away my birthright of clan heir like it was trash. I didn't meet Satsuki-chan and Hinata-chan until I was 5, so I lived the first years of my life in complete isolation. Don't you dare say that I don't know what pain is. I know it better than you ever will. With that, he left the house and slammed the door shut, but made sure not to break it. The others were stunned at what they had heard. They never knew just how much weight Naruto carried on his shoulders, and felt bad about not comforting him properly when he was always there for them. The girls all had tears in their eyes, seeing as how even they didn't know that he had went through something like that. They vowed to make sure to do everything in their power to make Naruto happy from now on. Time skip. That night, Naruto was currently on the bridge admiring how grand in scale that it seemed. He thought about telling them all, including Kushina, about what had happened to him. What he left out of his story was much worse though. In reality, the bandits made him watch as well before he could escape. He just didn't feel like telling them the whole truth at the moment. He felt a presence behind him, and saw Hinata looking at him. "Naruto-kun, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?" asked the concerned voice of Hinata. "No, I'm sorry that I snapped back there. It was completely unprofessional to do so." The 2 of them were silent for a while, tension hung in the air, waiting for one to say something first. Hinata decided that she should say something before he thinks she has any negative feelings towards him. "Naruto-kun, why didn't you tell us about this? Don't you trust us?" she asked sadly. He spun around quickly and looked at her. "Of course I trust you. You, Satsuki-chan, Natsumi-chan, Makoto-san, the Ichiraku family, and Enko-chan are the only ones that I completely trust. It's just, I didn't want you to know that there was a time when I was weak." She seemed very surprised at that. Was that what made him not tell them? "You all see me as a pillar of strength, when the truth is I couldn't save them. I even lied back in there about part of the story. They made me watch them have their way with the girls before I escaped. I was a coward that abandoned them because of my own weakness. By the time the guards had gotten there, they had all been dead. I understand if you hate me after telling you this, and I won't bother you anymore." Slap. He would have continued, but Hinata had slapped him, and had tears in her eyes. "Of course I would never hate you, you big idiot. You were 3 for Kami's sake. No one, no matter how talented, could beat bandits with significant shinobi training without the right materials. You keep beating yourself up for this, but you couldn't have done anything at the time, so it wasn't your fault. Now come on, show me where the blonde I fell in love with went." Naruto was looking at her with very wide eyes, and Hinata, who just realized what she had said, was a very dark crimson color with her head down. He thought about what she said, and decided that everything she said was true. He realized that for someone so intelligent, he could really be an idiot when it came to emotions. He slowly walked to Hinata and lifted her chin to make her face him. "I guess I am an idiot in some ways after all. Thank you so much, Hinata-chan. I love you too." With that said, he brought his head down and his lips met hers. Electricity spread throughout their bodies, spreading a feeling of absolute joy to them. "Her lips are so soft," thought an entranced Naruto. They both pushed together more, wanting to feel more of the most welcome sensations they had never experienced before. After around 5 minutes, they had to pull apart for air. Both were panting and had flushed faces as if they had just run a marathon. Naruto was the first to speak first after getting out of his lightheaded state. Wow, that was amazing. I never knew kissing felt that good. Hinata merely nodded, not trusting her voice at the moment. The two stayed in silence, holding each other's hands for a few more minutes before they decided to head back, as not to worry everyone. When they returned, Satsuki and Natsumi were both pacing back and forth on the front porch. Satsuki finally noticed that they were there and tackled Naruto to the ground. He could have prevented it, but he was still dazed from the kiss. "Where were you? You were gone for hours, and even though we know that you can take care of nearly everything that comes your way, we still worry about you. Don't ever scare us like that again." Before he could say anything, she forcefully kissed him and he feared for the worst, but kissed back anyway. When he stood back up and parted from her, he looked to Hinata, who was still smiling. "I know what you're thinking right now. Why isn't she angry right now? Well, we have already decided beforehand that we would share you if you wanted to." Naruto stood there in a sort of shock, until his mind couldn't take anymore. He fainted on the spot. The girls were giggling like crazy, having just made him lose his cool like that. They carried him inside, missing the look of sadness on Natsumi's face. Her thoughts were very gloomy at the moment. "I guess that means I won't get a chance after all. What was I thinking? He couldn't love his own sister like that. He would probably think I was a freak if I told him." She walked inside, but decided to tell Hinata and Satsuki how she felt about him, and to take care of him or else very bad things would happen to them. When she did tell them, she had the shock of a lifetime when she heard that they would share with her if Naruto wanted to be with her. She didn't know how he would react, but she had to at least tell him. He deserved to know the truth anyway.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.